People often think that intelligent people are those who know more than others. They have better memories, speak more sharply, always give quicker answers, and seem never to be flustered by any problem. But the truth is, knowledge isn't what makes a person truly intelligent. What really makes a person intelligent lies in how they think when faced with life's challenges. When faced with difficulties, most people react immediately with emotion. They panic at failure. They get angry at opposition. And they easily lose control when things don't go their way. Even a single criticism can make them lose their composure. A small setback can cause them to be depressed all day. But intelligent people are different. They don't react hastily. They pause to observe. They try to understand what's really happening before letting their emotions guide them. While others only see the chaos, they seek to find the root cause. While others only want to react, they choose to think. And that very calmness creates a huge gap between someone who is mature in their thinking and someone who is always controlled by emotions. Interestingly, these skills are completely independent of high IQ or qualifications. You don't need to be a genius to think smarter. This isn't an innate ability. These are thinking habits that anyone can cultivate every day. In this video, we'll explore 5 ways intelligent people use their brains differently from the rest. These things may sound simple, but if understood and applied, they can completely change how you view life, how you solve problems, and even who you become. One of the clearest signs of truly intelligent people is that they don't try to win every argument. This sounds counterintuitive, as many people still think that intelligence means being a skilled debater, having sharp reasoning, and always silencing others. But in reality, the more mature and knowledgeable people become, the less they feel the need to prove themselves right at all costs. Just observe. When someone disagrees with your point of view, the instinctive reaction of most people is defensive. We interrupt. We argue. We try to find reasons to defend our ego. And after just a few minutes, a normal conversation turns into a win-lose battle where no one is really listening anymore. But intelligent people are different. They don't react immediately. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," they will ask, "Why do you think that? What makes you believe that? Have you had any experiences that gave you this perspective?" The difference lies here. They don't ask to attack. They ask to understand. Because they understand that when people feel attacked, they immediately put up a defense. But when they feel listened to, they become more open, share more honestly, and sometimes even reflect on their own thoughts. Intelligent people understand one important thing. You can almost never change someone's mind by forcing them to admit they're wrong. The more pressured they are, the more stubborn they become. But a well-timed question can make them think more deeply than any argument. That's why truly strong-willed people are always very calm during debates. They don't need to win immediately to feel valuable. They focus on understanding the issue rather than defeating the other person. Remember, in a tense conversation, the person who controls their emotions is usually the strongest. If you also believe that calmness is a sign of intelligence, press number 1. And that's also why intelligent people rarely panic over small problems. Because when you stop letting emotions take over so quickly, you start seeing things from a broader perspective. This is a mindset that very few people possess, the ability to see the big picture instead of just focusing on the immediate negative moment. Most people judge their entire lives based on a short-term failure. If they fail an exam, they think they're not smart enough. If they're denied an opportunity, they think they're not valuable enough. Just one bad day can make them feel like everything is falling apart. But intelligent people think differently. They don't see problems as the end. They see them as signals. If things don't go well, they don't immediately blame themselves. Instead, they ask, "What's really going on here? What do I need to change? Is there a better way to solve this problem?" Instead of getting stuck in their emotions, they begin to analyze the cause. Perhaps they need to change their study habits. Perhaps they simply aren't getting enough sleep. Perhaps they're using the wrong method. Intelligent people understand that a single moment doesn't define who you are. A single failure doesn't determine your future. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, problems become much less daunting. And when you stop panicking, that's when you can finally think clearly enough to find the real solution. Most intelligent people eventually realize something that changes their way of life. Not every problem is worth worrying about. This is one of the most obvious differences between intelligent people and most others. Most people spend a large amount of mental energy worrying about things they can't control. What will other people think of me? What will happen if I fail in the future? What will happen if something bad happens tomorrow? Why does my boss seem so grumpy? What will happen if I miss a great opportunity? The more these thoughts repeat, the heavier the mind becomes. And the strange truth is, worrying rarely solves anything. Intelligent people understand this. They know that constant worrying is not the same as problem solving. Very often it's simply unnecessary mental exhaustion. So they follow a simple principle. If you can't control it, don't let it control your mind. They don't waste time trying to control the weather. If it's going to rain, they bring an umbrella. That's it. They don't try to force others to like them. Instead, they focus on honesty, respect, and living a balanced life. They don't obsess over whether success is guaranteed, because no one can completely control the outcome. But they can control their preparation. They can control their discipline. They can control their attitude. And that's where true strength begins. The moment you stop wasting energy on things beyond your control, your mind will become lighter. Your thoughts will become clearer. Your actions will become more decisive. And people will start to notice something different about you. You'll seem calmer, more stable, more mature. Not because your life suddenly became easier. Not because your problems disappeared. But because you've learned one of the most important skills in life. Knowing what deserves your attention and what to let go of. If you agree that peace begins when you stop trying to control everything, comment Hasson below. And when their minds are no longer filled with pointless worries, intelligent people begin to develop a very special ability. They know how to use silence. It sounds simple, but this is something very few people can do. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence. Just a few seconds of silence in a conversation, and they immediately want to say something to fill the gap. They respond too quickly. They react too quickly. They talk incessantly just to avoid feeling awkward. But intelligent people are different. They are not afraid of silence. They understand that talking a lot isn't always a sign of intelligence. Sometimes the person who speaks less is the one who observes the most. Instead of interrupting while others are speaking, they listen until the end. Instead of reacting immediately, they take a few seconds to think before responding. And that short pause makes a huge difference. Because when you speak too quickly, emotions often precede thoughts. But when you slow down a bit, you'll start choosing your words more carefully. Your answers will be clearer and more insightful. There's an interesting thing about communication. The calmer a person is, the less they talk nonsense, the more trustworthy they tend to seem. When you know when to be silent, others feel heard. They pay more attention when you speak. And your words carry much more weight. That's why many truly intelligent people aren't the loudest in the room. They don't need to talk constantly to prove their worth. They observe first. They think first. Then they speak only when absolutely necessary. And sometimes it's that very calmness that sets a person apart from a crowd that's always reacting impulsively. And this ability to remain calm in silence leads to an even more powerful skill. Intelligent people know how to pause before reacting. This may be one of the biggest differences between thoughtful people and those who are driven by emotion. Most people react instantly to whatever happens around them. If someone interrupts them, they immediately become annoyed. If someone criticizes them, they argue back without thinking. If things don't go their way, they get angry, complain, or lose control. Everything happens so fast that there's no room for thoughtful consideration. But intelligent people do things differently. When emotions begin to rise, they don't react immediately. They pause. Just for a few seconds. But those few seconds can change everything. In that brief moment, they ask themselves, is this worth getting angry about? What's the smartest way to react? Do I want to solve this problem, or just release my emotions? That brief silence gives them something most people lose in emotional moments. Control. And that control changes the outcome. Because while others react instinctively, the calm person can see the bigger picture. They think more clearly. They choose their words more carefully. They make better decisions. This doesn't mean they're weak. This doesn't mean they're silent out of fear. In fact, staying calm when emotions are threatening to explode requires strength. Intelligent people understand that an impulsive reaction can destroy trust, damage relationships, ruin opportunities, or create unnecessary problems. Therefore, instead of reacting first and regretting later, they think first and react purposefully. If you also believe that true intelligence is staying calm when it matters most, write the number 1 in the comments. And when you begin to pause before reacting, you'll realize something very important. True intelligence isn't about knowing more than others, but about managing your thoughts, emotions, and actions in the most difficult times. That's also the common thread running through all 5 habits we've just discussed. Intelligent people don't try to win every argument because they understand that understanding others is more important than proving themselves right. They don't panic over a small setback because they know a single moment can't determine the future. They don't waste energy on things beyond their control because excessive worrying never solves a problem. They know when to be silent because sometimes calmness speaks louder than 100 words. And most importantly, they don't let emotions control their reactions. These things sound simple, But if you truly apply these principles, your life will change in very noticeable ways. You'll be calmer when facing pressure. You'll think more clearly when things get chaotic. You'll make better decisions instead of reacting impulsively and regretting it later. The important thing is that no one is born with these skills. These aren't gifts reserved for geniuses or those with exceptionally high IQs. These are habits that can be cultivated little by little every day. So don't try to change everything at once. Just choose one thing from this video to start. Maybe it's listening more. Maybe it's pausing for a few seconds before reacting. Or simply learning to let go of things you can't control. If this video provides you with a helpful perspective, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more content about mindset psychology and practical, easy-to-apply self-development. Because sometimes, just a small change in your way of thinking can make a huge difference in your entire life.